Henry, do you not realize you were fired? Yet you still have the nerve to come to work today? There was a reason you were fired. You're incompetent. I couldn't trust you with anything. Oh, you do know what incompetent means, right? Mr. Davis, I'm terribly sorry about that. I needed to leave the handover documents on your desk, but things were running late yesterday. With the amount of information, it took a bit longer than expected to put everything together. So again, I apologize that I had to come in today to deliver that. Were you able to check that all the documents were in order? Yeah, I saw them. I put them straight in the shredder too. What? Are you serious? Do you really think I can trust you to make anything legible? You're so incompetent that the best I can hope for is a 4th grade level explanation. But this time it was even worse than that. Like, did you actually expect us to use your documents that you prepared? If you can call that preparing. Believe me, I did myself a favor by throwing what you submitted into the dustbin. We'll have to do everything over now. But how are you going to take over for me this month if you have no idea what's going on? Those documents detailed everything, right up to the last week I was working at this company. All the names of my customers, contact information. Why would you dispose of important information like that? Oh, so now you think you can just tell me what to do, huh? Like I said, I'm not going to refer to your sketchy information. You've really got some balls talking all big and saying I made a mistake. Don't worry about me interacting with your customers. I'm going to do a far better job with them than you. I can tell already. And I'm better off going about and building new relationships with all the clients. It's not like they liked you anyway. Huh? Oh, is that so? Yeah, and what about the apology email? If you really had so much time to come to the office today, the least you could have done is write that. Apology email? And what exactly would that be for? An important client called me out for mistakes on documents that you were supposed to check. Don't tell me you forgot about those. Remember our deal with eNet Corp? There were mistakes all over those reports that they noticed, and now we're in deep. Hold on, weren't those supposed to be your reports? You were the one responsible for everything related to eNet Corp, if I recall. You really don't get it, do you? You were working as my subordinate, and as someone who works under me, your job was to check my work as well as yours. You were unable to do that, and the customer called me out for it. Come on, Henry, can't you see I took the blame for you here? If you had just checked the report, we wouldn't be in this mess. Mr. Davis, in all honesty, I just can't agree with you here. You're saying that a junior employee is responsible for checking his superior's work for mistakes? Maybe I'm missing something, but the last I heard was that the superior is usually the one checking the subordinate's work. Isn't that commonplace, Mr. Davis? You need to watch how you're talking to your superior, Henry. I'm the one who makes the decisions of what exactly my workers are responsible for. Oh, maybe you thought that all subordinates just decided their own tasks. Can you imagine that? An office run by incompetents like yourself? I'm already going to be leaving this company, so just let me say my piece. I'm sure you would allow me to do that, at least. I believe that you have no right to place responsibility on me for mistakes that happen based on your work. I was never told to check documents related to that customer, and now you're suddenly blaming me for it? Like, seriously, man? Hey, you cannot talk to your superior like that. Frankly, I'm getting tired of having to explain every little rule and intricacy of this position. These are all things you should know. But apparently, you're too incompetent to realize your role in all of this. But now it's too late. Too bad, so sad. I held back from saying this for all the time I've worked at this company, but now that I'm leaving, I can finally speak honestly. You cannot be blaming whoever works under you for errors in your work. You are the manager here. You need to take responsibility for yourself. It's ridiculous putting the blame on a younger, less experienced worker. Honestly, I feel terrible for whoever is going to be working under you next. That's why I want to tell you that your management style is a joke. Just because I fired you, it doesn't mean I have to listen to you blabber on and on with excuses. And whoever the next person is that I have to manage, as long as they're more incompetent than you, I'll be in good shape. And the only one you should be feeling sorry for is me. I had to deal with your lazy butt this whole time. Thank God you're finally out of here. What I'm saying is the truth, Mr. Davis. If you really think about it, you blame your subordinates for everything that goes wrong at this company. Whether it's your own errors on your own documents or annoying office jobs and paperwork. You throw it all to the person who works under you. Oh, and what about the fudging of company expenses? You've been writing off everything. haven't you? Our company expenses are settled by myself and the other managers fair and square. Do you know you could get into big legal trouble for accusing a business of fudging expenses? That's a big claim to make from such a little man like you. I have written proof, Mr. Davis. It's all in the expense reports. Your weekly drinks with the other managers, putting up your family in hotels when they're in town, going to strip clubs with customers. All of that is written off as company expenses, isn't it? That's probably why that area of the budget is always in the red. Can't say I know anything about that. Besides, what's the problem with having meetings out of the office after work? We even invited you to a couple of those meetings. Can't you remember, Henry? You call that a meeting? We just kept ordering pitchers of beer and back-talking upper management. How is that productive in any way? And legality states that company expenses can be used for office gatherings, but what you used it for was far different. You and Mr. Eckhart went to Big Bob's Decoria 17 times in 1 month. 17 times? And all on the company's dime? Let me tell you a little something, Henry. When you're manager, you need to do certain things for the company to succeed. You need to keep clients happy, keep employee morale high, keep sales up, etc. There's clear reasons to all of these things, which you clearly don't get. Well, it seems like you clearly aren't taking the responsibility for this either. Not that I'm surprised at all. I even saw some gifts for customers being written on the expense report, when it was clearly things that you bought for yourself. Potato chips, bottles of soda. Do those sound much like gifts for customers? I'd like to hear how you explain that. Well, I did buy those with the idea of giving them to customers, but just never ended up doing so. I've got clients who love that kind of stuff. I just wasn't able to make it to them in time, so I ate them myself. Another perk of being a manager, I guess. But you didn't bother to correct the expense report. Don't you realize you could get into real trouble for this kind of stuff? God, I'm getting tired of hearing all your false accusations. Everything is within the rules, Henry. Being a low-ranking employee like you wouldn't know what it really takes to run a company, which is why you're getting fired. I'm gonna say it once more, Mr. Davis. Do you realize that these things could seriously compromise your business moving forward? Do you realize that discussing business over enchiladas with my close work colleague is considered legal grounds for a meeting in almost any company? Stop before you embarrass yourself, son. By the way, any luck on finding your next job? It shouldn't be hard for such a shining example of an employee like yourself. Well, I'll make that all then. As for my next position, I'll be fine. Things will fall into place. I plan to work at this company for longer, so it's too bad it didn't work out. Honestly, I had real pride in serving my customers here, and I believed in the product. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. You had real pride, huh? In that case, why didn't you actually try to do a good job? All I heard from your customers were bad reviews. That's not true at all. I built relationships with all of my clients one by one. I was able to deliver them excellent service, and I stand by that. And all of those contact details were listed in the handover materials that I prepared. However, you deemed those as unacceptable. I believe that incompetent was the word that I used. I'll make by just fine without that garbage that you prepared, alright? Aren't you fired? Why are you still coming to the office, Henry? Just leave here and don't contact me again. I don't need your information or anything. Just leave. What the hell did you say to them? I'm serious. If I hear that you've divulged company information to any of our clients, you're gonna be in big legal trouble. Oh, Mr. Davis, I didn't think I'd be hearing from you again after the last time. Is there something you wanted to discuss with me? There certainly is. I just went to meet with one of your previous clients, Mr. Eldridge. Oh, yes, Hank. How's he doing? Not well, apparently. After he heard that you had left the company, he canceled his contract with us. You must have made some kind of side arrangement with him or something, didn't you? Side agreement? Maybe he just appreciated the service I gave him during my time there, and was disappointed that I was gone? I guess we did build up quite a good relationship, me and Hank. No, that can't be it. You must have done something. Come on, spit it out, Henry. I insist. I really only did my job the best that I possibly could. If you're really suspicious of anything, all of the meeting notes are in the handover report that I left you. Oh, yeah, you disposed of that, didn't you? Tell me, was it something I said? What made him cancel the contract? There was one thing. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Eldridge wasn't a big fan of you, sir. Are you saying that he didn't like me? And for what reason would that be? I think it might have been the way you're always blaming your mistakes on younger employees. Clients see that, Mr. Davis. It's not just something that you and the employees themselves notice. And how would clients find out about that, Henry? You must have been the one to tell them, right? That's company information. I'd never. I'm smart enough not to do something like that. Then how did this happen? Well, you know how you would call me when you noticed a mistake? You'd always be yelling right into the phone. Customers can hear that. You're supposed to make those kind of calls on the low, Henry. What were you thinking doing that in front of your boss? I did try to hide the fact that my boss was calling me out over the phone, but they noticed nonetheless. I guess they just sensed that something was off between me and my boss when they heard the way we talked on the phone. They weren't wrong. And they all knew that it was you who was my boss. That's no secret. That's why you don't let on about any of this stuff. Don't you know that's just common sense in a company? You shouldn't let clients sense that anything's off. Frankly, I tried, sir. It's just my clients knew how hard I worked and really couldn't see where I was going wrong. So I guess they just figured that it was you after all. I can't imagine how you became so buddy-buddy with these customers that it made me look like some kind of bad guy. Like, you do realize they are customers, right? They're not your friends as much as you might think. The only reason the customers got such a negative image of me must have been because of the way you were talking about me. What did you tell them, Henry? I didn't tell them anything. They could see it in plain sight. Me having to apologize for mistakes that were clearly on you? The look on my face after getting off the phone with you, they could just tell. Nah, I ain't buying that. You definitely said something you didn't need to. I bet you were just bad-mouthing me the whole time you met with them. Listen, I did go to greet them one last time and told them that I had been fired from the company. I also mentioned that my boss, you, would be taking over for me. Then I mentioned the handover documents and that all further business would be handled by you. That's it. Idiot! You were supposed to give me information about each client verbally, in person. You can't just write all that confidential information in some report. God, that must have been it. Because of your stupid decision not to fill me in on all of the client's preferences and whatnot, I didn't know how to approach them. This could have been avoided. What are you talking about? I'm really certain that I'm not the one acting idiotic in this situation. I wrote information about each client in detail and made every point clear so that you wouldn't have to spend hours and hours going over it. Why in the world wouldn't you look at that? Enough. It's too late. You set this up so that the client hated me for whatever reason, and that led to our company losing a valued customer. So, how are you gonna make up for this? I'm afraid it's out of my hands now. Well, I guess I could just tell you. Huh? Tell me what? I guess Mr. Aldridge might have gotten a bad impression of you when I told him everything that happened. I think the way I put it was, I was fired by my terrible boss, and he's the one that's gonna be taking over my position. What did you say to him? You actually said that, like, in those words? Well, I may have made it a bit more colorful in the way I described it, but I was telling the truth. Never listening to what other employees have to say, spending company funds on your own private expenses, throwing responsibility on those under you. You're the definition of a terrible boss. What? Oh, and I might have mentioned that they may want to think about canceling their contract to avoid having to deal with an idiot like you. They also didn't appreciate the way I was laid off, with no prior notice. I can't believe this. You must have bribed them or something. Why would they just believe everything a lower-ranked employee like you has to say? Nah, unlike you, I don't take part in shady business money exchanges. The reason they believed me was, like I said, I built trust with them. I followed up whenever there was a problem and tried to work towards solutions together. They appreciated that hard work. You're saying just by doing that you won them over? There must be something you're not letting on. You could learn from them. I'm sure if you asked them why they appreciated my service, they would give you some pointers too. Me? Learn from what you were doing? You really are nuts, aren't you? A little favoritism from customers and suddenly you're some kind of people-pleasing customer expert? Newsflash, buddy, you're jobless. Oh, about that. Just before this, I got quite an interesting call from our area manager. Mr. Harold? Yeah, he actually said that he was surprised that I had been fired. Also, on the notice that he received, it said that the reason I left the company was due to me quitting myself and not being fired. But I affirmed with him that that wasn't the case in the least, and that I would be happy to discuss a possible return to the company. Huh? A return to the company? Yes. And it looks like I'll be able to take a more important post there as well. What? How is that possible? I fired you. I wouldn't act so surprised just yet. He also told me that you'll be getting demoted. Demoted? Are you kidding me? It seems Mr. Harold got in touch with some of the customers and heard some unfavorable reviews of the job you were doing. Not to mention, a lot of customers were livid when they heard that my job was being taken over by you. So, you're taking over my job then? What the hell is going on? Not so fast. I also took the liberty of telling Mr. Harold about the expense reports that I'd gone through. Needless to say, he was less than pleased. Outraged, even. Oh my god. Why did you have to go and do all that? How could you be so stupid? Oh, I'm getting a call from the head office right now. That must be Mr. Harold. Well, him or one of the other higher-ups. You might want to answer that. Listen, Henry, do me a solid here, man. Just tell them everything was a lie and I'll let you off the hook for everything. Come on, I'll even throw in some extras. You like sports. I've got tickets to any team you like. Good one. Well, Mr. Davis, I think you learned a valuable lesson through this whole debacle. You might want to look in the mirror before you label someone else as incompetent. That person just might become your boss. Following that, Mr. Davis was contacted by the company and grilled on the shady business expenses that he had been racking up. With receipts as proof to show that he'd really been using company funds for personal expenses, he was promptly fired from his role as manager. The company had no choice but to take Mr. Davis to court. There, he was charged with unlawful use of company expenses and forced to pay back every cent of what he had spent. Henry, on the other hand, was able to take on a higher-up post in the same company that he had been unjustly fired from. There, he was able to contact and get back the customers that had been lost, leading to high praise from his new boss, Mr. Harold. I guess Henry wasn't so incompetent after all.